Hi guys, it's Aoife from Words of Clover and I'm here with another book match video. And obviously because this is the Irish Readathon, the month of the Irish Readathon, I'm going to do a book match video, like kind of an Irish edition of it, where I am recommending people books specifically by Irish authors. So I'm really excited to get into this one because there are some really great people on my list that I want to recommend people watch and also recommend them books. And the first person I want to recommend a book to is Mercedes over at Mercy's Bookish Musings. Mercedes is someone who I've been watching for quite a long time, and I think the type of books she reads are always really interesting, and I always love her kind of really honest thoughts about the book she's reading. If she does not like a book, like, she will DNF it, and she has also started doing videos about the books that she has DNF'd and why she has DNF'd or put them down, and I really appreciate that as well, and I just love seeing the different things that she says about these books. Mercedes has like a particularly, like, she really likes literary fiction, and she also loves mainly reading books by female voices, and that is why I'm going to be recommending her A Ghost in the Cloak by Doireann and Ghriofa. Anyone who's been on this channel a while knows this is one of my favourite books ever since I read it at the end of last year, and basically every chance I get I will try and recommend it to people. But I genuinely, like, part of me is like, I really think Mercedes might really enjoy this, but I also selfishly would just love to see what she says, even if it's that she doesn't like it. I would love just for her to read this and for me to see like how she will review it. Just different elements of this book that I think Mercedes might really like. For one, it is obviously written by a female author, and it's a very kind of female voice in terms of the author herself is talking about her own experiences as a young woman, as a mother. The author's identity as a mother and a wife and like a homemaker and, like, you know, a scholar, a teacher, and she's going through all of these things in kind of the memoir section of this book. This book is also split into kind of a historical essay as well, where Doireann and Ghriofa is looking at a woman in history called Evelyn Dove, who wrote this really famous Keena for her husband Art O'Leary when he died. And the way Doireann looks at how women are remembered in history and how she explores what Evelyn was like and how she has to really study and really find these tiny little bits in history that have been recorded about this woman, because a lot of it has disappeared, and just the commentary around that about how women are remembered. There are parts of this book that just they just feel like poetry. There are some really lovely lyrical prose in this book, and I just thought it was gorgeous. And as I said before, I just can't wait to read this again and again and again throughout my life, because I think it's just one of those ones I'll be picking up a lot. I would just love to see what Mercedes has to say about it, because I think it's one that she might possibly really enjoy, or she might hate, but I would definitely appreciate her review nevertheless about it. The next person I want to recommend a book to is Kevin over at Irish Reader. Kevin is obviously someone I've followed for a very long time. He was one of the very first Irish booktubers that I found after I started my channel. I'm sure a lot of people already know him, but if you don't, you definitely should go and subscribe, because he's just not only is he just a lovely person, and he's just such a joy to watch, and his videos are always funny and full of humor and lovely, just a loveliness, and yeah, he's just a really nice person. I also really like just seeing his different thoughts in books, whether it's really kind of well-known books that he's reading for the first time, like Twilight or Six of Crows. I also love seeing when books really kind of mean things to him as well. One of those books is why I'm recommending the book I am to him. Kevin really loves Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda, which was turned into the movie Love, Simon by Becky Albertalli, and that's what I want to recommend What Love Looks Like by Jarlath Gregory to Kevin, because this book, there are parts of this book that reminded me a lot of Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda, but in a more Irish context. This book is about a boy called Ben who he's openly out. His family and his friends all know that he is gay, but he's still dealing with some kind of homophobic behaviour by people on his street and people he grew up with, and kind of dealing with that. And he just wants to find someone to date, and he wants to find a boyfriend, and he wants to find love, like any of us really. And he's kind of going through the whole deal with online dating and Grindr and Tinder, and seeing how that works out for him. There's also part of this book that are set in drag bars, and for anyone who likes RuPaul's Drag Race, I think they would really enjoy those parts of this book as well. And Ben's friend is also a drag queen too, so you kind of see those fun scenes in the book where Ben is at these places. So this is a lovely mix between Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda and The Snapper by Roddy Doyle, because I said it is set in Dublin. There are kind of some more mature teen themes in this book than there are in Simon. Would be for older YA readers upwards. It's also as I said, homophobic bullying in this book that could be, and like the F word is used a good few times in this book, which could be triggering for people as well. But Ben's story, and just like Ben just like getting on with things, and you know, trying to figure things out, trying to like deal with friends trouble and like possible boyfriend trouble, and like just going about his life, and like just wanting, like looking forward to the future and making plans for his future. I just really enjoyed all of that as well. And I think Kevin might too, which is why I am recommending it to him. Another person I'm going to recommend a book to is Noria over at Chronicles of Noria. I have recommended Noria before on like just a usual BookTube recommendations. I love Noria. I cannot stop like raving about her anytime I want to talk about her, because she is just so funny. She, like, her book reviews are so, like, she gets like these like spot on kind of commentary around these books, and I just love reading her reviews because I just love her humor, I love her personality, and I just love everything she ever says about books. And I also love that she reads a huge variety of genres. She'll read sci-fi, she'll read fantasy, she'll read YA, she'll read new adults. She reads like such a huge variety of books that I always love watching her wrap-ups, because I get such a mix of everything. Noria also really enjoys kind of the worlds of Sarah J Maas and Cassandra Clare, which is why I want to recommend her The Demon's Lexicon by Sarah Rees Brennan, because this is a book that I would recommend for people who enjoy the Shadowhunters world, and this was written around the same time that City of Bones was written. And Sarah Rees Brennan and Cassandra Clare are actually quite friendly, and Sarah Rees Brennan has co-written a few of the Shadowhunter tale stories with Cassandra Clare too. So like her style of writing could be familiar to those who've read those books. This book we are following, this is like an urban fantasy series, and we are following these brothers called Nick and Alan. They've basically been on the run their entire life since they were small. This group of magicians are after them for unknown reasons, but they basically always have to keep running. Nick is the younger brother, and he's always been like a little bit different, and making these friends with these two people who go to school with Nick, called May and Jamie. And Jamie is actually a magician, but he hasn't been trained. He's only coming into his powers, and the two of them basically have to save May and Jamie, both from the magicians who are following them, but also demons, because demons are in this world and they play a very big part in this world. As they kind of unravel Jamie's links with magicians and the demons, and Nick and Alan's secrets, a lot of things kind of start coming out, and Nick starts to find things out about himself that he never knew about before. So this book is full of just secrets and mystery. There's magic, there's a bit of horror elements in terms of the demons, and they're kind of scary, but they're also kind of fascinating, and the way you have to make deals with them, and the way you call them into the earth, to our world, and how they're able to get to our world. There's a lot of there's rituals around that. I really love Sarah Rees Brennan's writing. There's a lot of humour in her writing, and she writes teenagers really, really well, witty banter, and just she just side comments, and I've always just enjoyed her humour in all the books that she's written, and it's this was the first book I read of hers, and so it's one of my favourites, and it's very nostalgic for me as well. I'm going to see if Noria reads this, if she really likes it. So yeah. That second last person I want to recommend a book to is Carys over Carys' Corner. Carys is someone who I've been subscribed to for quite a long time. We kind of started our channels near around the same time as each other, and then she took a break for a while, but she came back last year, and I was really glad to see her videos come back. So Carys really loves travelling, and unfortunately, obviously, due to the COVID crisis, she hasn't been able to travel to a lot of different places that she wanted to, and she's been doing this kind of travelling with books series on her channels, where the countries she was supposed to visit, she's reading a book from these countries instead, and that's her kind of way of almost mentally travelling to these countries at a time when she can't physically travel. To recommend a book to Carys where she maybe would be able to travel through a book to a different country. So I'm going to recommend her Call Him Mine by Tim MacGabhann, which is a book I've talked about previously on this channel, but it is set in Mexico City, and we are following a character who is a journalist in Mexico City, and his photographer and boyfriend is murdered when they start investigating this body that they find that was left by a drug cartel. The main character ends up getting embroiled in this mystery surrounding something these drug cartels are up to, and he puts basically himself in a lot of danger to find out what is happening and the corruption within this world, and how a lot of these crimes and things that are happening are connected to these drug cartels and something bigger that they are doing. Tim MacGabhann is also a journalist, and I don't know if he is at the moment, but he did live in Mexico City for quite a long time, and this book is inspired by a story he heard when he was a journalist in Mexico City. So this definitely kind of brings to life a lot of both the the highs and the lows of what it's like to live in Mexico City, the dangers, but also some of like the great fun things that you can do, the food, a lot of like the food description in this book as well. When he like is getting street food, like Mexican street food is also really, really nice. And yeah, I think this is a great book. I said I didn't like the sequel to this book. I don't think it's necessary. I think you can just read it as a standalone. But this first book, Call Him Mine, I think is really interesting. And I'd love to see if Carys reads and likes it. And then the last person I want to recommend a book to is Olivia over Olivia's Catastrophe. I love Olivia. She is just absolutely amazing. She's one of these people who every time she does a book review, I am just in awe of everything she says and how she can review books. And she's just so eloquent and intelligent and amazing, and yeah, I just love her, and I love the videos that she does. And Olivia is actually writing a book at the moment, or she has just finished and is editing a novel that she's written in verse, and that is why I wanted to also recommend Olivia a novel in verse. And there's a novel I read a few years ago called The Space Within by MacGabhann, and this is a book that is written in verse, and I really, really enjoyed this book. And there's parts of this book that I just think are so lovely and beautiful and really stick with me. And there's also mentions of periods and menstruation in this book, and I really enjoyed that too, because anything that kind of like takes away the stigma that there are people that will go through this and all the shitty side effects that come with having a period. I really enjoy seeing that in books and seeing it represented. This book also has a female romance that is just really sweet, and the way it grows throughout the book is just lovely to read about. And we're also following a character, the main character who we are following is dealing with like mental illness, and is dealing with, I think it's agoraphobia, they're afraid to go outside, and they're dealing with a lot of like fear and anxiety around venturing outside. And the relationship they end up developing is someone who, you know, lives nearby, and they kind of develop this relationship like almost through a window in a way for some of it. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book, and I would love to know if Olivia would like it as well. So those are some amazing booktubers that I love, and also some books that I think that they will really, really like. I would love to know if anyone has read these books, or if you guys would recommend a book for me. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you guys again next time.